Right, folks, so this is method number 3. So the colours that I've got mixed are a purple that's mixed from ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, but any purple will be fine. I've got some sap green, some ultramarine blue as it is, a little bit of burnt sienna, and then a very dark browny black that I have mixed from the burnt umber and ultramarine blue. It's probably slightly on the brown scale, but only just. So no drawing for this, and I'm going to go straight in, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to create my tree just using some little dips and dabs with the tip of the brush. So you've got to sort of visualize a little bit on this. But it's not that bad, to be honest. And what we're going to do is use this method and then let this dry. So it's almost a reverse of the normal way that you would go about it, but it works and you can get some really nice effects with it. If you don't like it, that's absolutely fine, but at least you'll be familiar with it and you'll know how it works. So I'm just going to take that down to there, round a few more of these up. So this is my dark that I've mixed. I'm not too bothered about getting flat edges and things on it. You know where it's going to come, but you know, you can sort of almost create an outer edge if it makes you feel a bit more comfortable. So we got that on that side, and I will put a few more on here, just create. It's more about feeling confident, I think, than anything else. If you're confident with what you're doing, it will work fine. If you feel that it's out of control, by all means, put some pencil marks in first. But I don't really find it's necessary when I use this method. But what we will need to do is to make sure that this is completely dry before you go in with any colours. And then, of course, later on, you'll be putting some more colour over it. So that's one. I'm going to let that dry. So I'm going to move on and do another one over here. And all you've got to do is think of what shapes you want to have in your tree. So here I'm just putting a few in. I'm going to bring it round. So this is less of a straight one. You do get with silver birches, especially when they grow in clusters, you'll often get one or two that lean in or lean out. They're obviously following the sun, or they've been affected by the environment when they were little twiglets. So very roughly, don't want to get too picky with it. Just going to get a few little dips, dashes and lines coming through. And I'm leaving some darker smudges in there as well. And you can get some really nice effects using this approach. So I've got that, and maybe want to put something in the other side. Again, you don't necessarily have to, you don't have to fill the whole thing in. You've got enough information there already to tell anyone looking at it that it's a silver birch tree. But if you feel like you want to do a little bit more, you go right ahead. I think this probably comes under the heading of therapy. There's something quite, there is something quite nice and therapeutic about it. I'm just taking this one down here. So you've got a disappearing, a little root that's moving off. We're going to enclose this one in at the bottom so that these two guys sort of fall together down here. So I think it's probably dry enough now. So damp brush, you don't want it wet. Tap the excess water out. So here's my bit of tissue. I'll move it over here. Tapping all the excess water out. I'm going to do this first one, so I'm just putting some of the purple on it, again tapping it out, and I'm going to take the darker colour down to the bottom. Try not to go over the same spots, because you've got paint underneath. Then every time you touch into it, you're opening that paint. So now I haven't cleaned my brush, I'm just going straight into my burnt sienna. Again, I'm just going to pull some of this across here and there. Doesn't have to follow any sort of pattern. Works better the more random you can be with it. I've got that there. And I'm going to add in just a little tiny bit of the sap green towards the bottom. Ignore the colours that you've got on there, it doesn't matter. As long as you're not labouring it and working it to death, it will be absolutely fine. You even have a little bit up there, so I'm quite happy with that one. I'm going to leave him where he is. On this other one, same process, but I'm going to go in with the ultramarine blue. Now I'm starting at the bottom because I've just put the paint on the brush. So obviously the paint is darker and thicker towards the bottom than it is higher up. This one, so I'm going from the ultramarine blue now straight into the burnt sienna. Just pulling some of it across. I'm not trying to be too paninicky with it, too picky about it. I'm just letting it drop in. It's going to be slightly darker. This one's slightly behind and to the back, so that's what I'm banking on. And some of the green down here. And then just before that's completely dry, I will go back in, swapping to my small brush again, picking up the dark again. I'm going to go straight back in, just strengthen up a couple of these edges. So this is the dark mixture, which is ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And this is my mix. It might not look it, but it actually is slightly on the brown side. So all I'm doing is going back over some of those marks that I put in before, strengthening them back in, adding in a few new ones if and where I think it needs it. Put a little bit more down here. And I will just do, I think I'll move that one over there a bit. And I'm just going to do the same on this one. It's not 100% dry. It honestly doesn't need to be. It's not going to create a problem. And because I'm not using really wet paint, or I'm not popping in and out of the water pot, I'm not picking up lots of water, so I don't really have to worry too much about it. Just a few little dashes and dots here and there. Here we go, nearly around. Some that come all the way over. I'm just going to enclose that there so that I've captured that little bit. I've got a little bit here. Just going to pull that into the tree so it's creating this really nice light area on the side. And because you've got some darks underneath the paint that you've put on, it does give it quite a nice three-dimensional look. A little bit more at the bottom. Take some off onto that. put some branches in. So what have I got? I've got a nice dark here. So I'm going to stick with this brush. So I'm going to go into this dark area here. And the paint that I'm using is darker than the paint that I'm fighting against. So I'm just taking that across there. Pull it across. And you can see it's cutting across the front of the tree. I will take from this spot here actually. Just pull that up, pull it out. Don't need to get too picky with it. This is more about creating the look of the tree. I'm going to take one from up here, take it up and bring it down. You can even bring some of that across the front of your tree. And I've got a nice dark area here, so take that one up and then let it fall back on itself. And then down here I'm going to put a little knobbly bit where it comes out off the tree. The neck is to not be too straight. I think that's fine. So from there, I'm going to go straight in, and I'm smashing my brush open. I'm going to do this more as just a spring look. So I'm just smashing the brush open on the green so it looks like that. Yes, I know people will want to cry. And I'm just pulling that across. Again, at the moment it's very much more of a springtime look. It hasn't got the heavy foliage in yet. It's just starting. Lots of buds and things. You can, if you want, go back to the dry brush method. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of the ultramarine blue. Just allow it to stain the paper. I do try to always move directions with the brush. So we've got that. Back down here. All I've done is just touch into the dark. Right down underneath it. Put it across. It's got a bit of a base now. It's not floating about up there in the air. I'm going to go back and into the dark, well, into the sap green, again smashing the brush open. So here's my brush all battered. No tears, just catching it onto the edges of that, pulling some up. And I catch some down here as well. A little bit up here. And then I'm going straight from that into the very dark. I haven't cleaned my brush, so although I'm picking up dark, it will also still have some of the green in it, so it'll give me a darker green. And then I'm going to do the same with my ultramarine, smashing into there, keeping the bristles open. Up, around and through the trees, and then just finish it off here, just putting a bit more colour underneath, some of the very dark, just a couple of bits here and there, and there you go. And as I say, you may or you may not like that method, but it's worth having a little play with, because the end results can be very, very satisfying. Okay, see you for the next one. Bye.